Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, the podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. Today's guest is Jay Appletini. She's a Vancouver-based cosplayer with too many toys, a real-life poison ivy, and the coolest person you'll never meet because she's too shy to say hi. Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, Jay.
Hey, nice to actually talk to you.
Oh, not a problem. So you are out in the west coast of Vancouver.
Yes, I am, up in Canada.
You are the second Vancouver person I've spoken to in probably less than 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. Well, we're pretty amazing. So we tend to have a lot of good people here.
I know the city is amazing. I did get to stop in there one time just for about a day or two before we got onto a cruise to Alaska, but Vancouver is awesome.
It is. It's absolutely gorgeous right now, too.
I bet the weather is probably much better than it is here in Orlando.
It must be hot down there, too.
About 108 degree heat index.
Oh, sounds lovely. I love the heat.
See, and I love the cold.
Okay, we can trade places for a little bit then.
Okay, you can come here and take the kids to school.
Okay, sounds good.
So I found you on Instagram. You are an amazing cosplayer. You have a variety of fandoms that you are into. How would you describe fandom?
Fandom for me would be, a group of people all getting together to celebrate whatever they like. Fandom has been a great way for me to meet new people all over the world and, get involved with cosplay, get involved with other fandoms that I hadn't even discovered at that point. And it's a great way to meet new people and discover new things and have a really good time with people who like the same thing that you do.
And what are you into?
Oh gosh, what aren't I into? Definitely Star Trek and Star Wars. I love DC. I love comics. I like Doctor Who. I like My Little Pony. Oh gosh, I like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I like everything.
Okay. Well, how did you get into fandom in the first place? Like, what's your earliest memory of like sitting down or reading or watching something and just starting to find yourself just drawn into that world?
Well, my earliest memory of getting into a fandom would be when I was a really young child. My mom was a huge Star Trek: The Next Generation fan. And every week it would come on, and that was her time with the TV. And if you wanted to be in the living room during that time, you were watching Star Trek with her. So I started watching it, and I still remember like watching the pilot episode, and it just blew me away. And ever since then, I've been a huge Star Trek fan, and that's kind of what started it all. My mom forced me to watch Star Trek when I was a kid.
So your mom forced you to watch Star Trek. You had to be quiet when you sat in that room, and it just the world of Star Trek just drew you in, or did it take a while?
Well, it definitely started with that, and then as I kind of grew up and hit my teenage years, it wasn't cool to be a big nerd anymore, so I kind of dropped
Mm-hmm.
it for a little while. And then I got a little bit older and I started acting school and met a couple of cool nerdy friends again. And one day, a Star Trek convention came into town, and my friend and I discovered it the weekend it was happening. So we decided, oh, let's just go check it out. Like, it wasn't really something that we thought we would be into, but we both really liked Star Trek. So we both kind of, went undercover with the sunglasses on and like didn't tell anyone, went to the Star Trek convention.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a really small convention, but I had so much fun. And I got to meet some of the actors and I went to panels and I got to see my very first time ever like really seeing cosplay in person. And I, suddenly ended up leaving with autographs and a whole bunch of toys. And my friend and I were just had so much fun. We're like, next year, we're going to go all weekend. We're going to cosplay. We're going to do it right this time. We'll have all the time in the world. And then the Star Trek Con never came back. So I never got
Wah,
to do it.
wah,
Yeah, I never
wah.
got to do it again. But I would say like that was like the moment where I'm like, you know what, I love this. I'm going to keep doing this. And it kind of really launched my re-embracing of my geekdom.
Absolutely. And I think Star Trek is a great gateway into fandom. Is definitely mine because I remember I had moved to Florida when I was in middle school, and one of my friends that I made down here had been into Star Trek, so he took me to see Star Trek 6 in the movie theater, which is, undiscovered country, lots of awesome action and
Hmm.
everything going on. We joined the local Star Trek fan club that met every month at like the local mall, and we had Star Trek conventions that would come, and we would volunteer and work them for free admission, and then we'd get to hang out with the cast afterwards, or whoever had come. Because at those days it was very small. I mean, one maybe two guests, and then a few vendors, a couple panels, but they're huge turnout. I mean, between the Klingon groups and the Star Trek people and people that just liked comics and all sorts of stuff. I mean, I remember working with the Deep Space Nine actors that did Ram and Nog. They were our guests at the last one,
Oh, that's so cool.
and they were so cool to hang out with afterwards, and they'd make jokes, and it's just a great like you have that little group of people, you're all into the same thing, you all have that like shared community, and it's just such an incredible experience to have that. And now, as one of my other guests put it, he said that we've won, the nerds have pretty much won. Everyone that is in a position of like modicum of power as far as like the entertainment industry goes, they're putting out our stuff, our comic movies, our Star Trek, Star Wars, pretty much anything that we had thought would be cool is now starting to be cool for
It's
everyone.
true. It's definitely a very good time to be a nerd.
Absolutely. So, what is your favorite Star Trek series, or are you more of the J.J. Abrams verse Star Trek?
Oh, I'm a next generation girl, 100%. You never forget your first captain. It's what I grew up with, and then I went straight from that into Deep Space Nine. So those two probably definitely have a very special place in my heart. And then once I got a
Hmm.
little bit older, that's when I went back and watched the original series and Voyager.
Okay. Do you consider yourself a fan of Enterprise?
Not really. Does that make me a bad fan?
No, because I tried Enterprise for a good season and a half, and I just had to quit
I
it.
tried. I really, really tried, and I don't like being one of those people that comes down on certain parts of the fandom. I like to kind of be
Hmm.
very positive and all-encompassing, and I really did give it a good college try, and I couldn't get into it. It was just, as soon as the theme song came on, I was like, "Oh, this isn't going well for me."
See, my thing when they did the cast was that they cast Scott Bakula from Quantum Leap, and I was
Yeah.
like, yes, that's so amazing. I'm going to be so happy with this. And then I watched it. I was like, what is going on with the story? Like,
Yeah, just no.
it's not really anything. And then to hear about how they ended it with Riker, and I don't know if it's Deanna Troy, watching it in the holodeck, like as if they were going back to experience it.
Yeah, it
I was like, what?
I keep promising myself I'm gonna give it another try and I'm gonna watch it all the way through and just, I haven't got around to doing it yet, but one of these days I'll try again because I wanna. There's a lot of really great actors in it, and there are some
Hmm.
really great things about it, and I think it was one of those things that it could have been so great, but it just didn't quite hit that mark for me.
Right. Absolutely. So, you being a next generation girl, you are obviously a fan of Captain Picard because you said you never forget your first
You
captain.
don't.
Is Picard your favorite character on the series, or do you have a different favorite?
Um, you know what? One of the things I really love about the Next Generation is the ensemble cast is so great. They work together so well, and there's some amazing, like a whole bunch of them are all classically trained actors, and you can tell, and the way they work
Hmm.
together is fantastic. If I had to pick a favorite character, I would probably say Picard because it's Picard. You can't really deny anything about that. But definitely Riker and Beverly Crusher are my other two, my other two favorites for sure.
Do you have a character either on that show or Deep Space Nine, sticking with the more modern ones just for the moment.
Mhm.
Do you feel that there's a character that's underrated that doesn't really get the appreciation that they deserve?
Barkley. Barkley,
Barkley,
yeah, I
yes,
love
yes.
Barkley. Oh my gosh, every time he was in an episode, it was always just the funniest thing, and I just loved him. I actually got to meet him at a convention. I collect autographs from actors who have been in Star Wars and Star Trek,
Hmm.
and I usually just get a photograph signed. I don't usually get merchandise signed, but I have this um, on card Reginald Barkley action figure from the Next Generation, and it looks so crappy. Like the bubble is broken, the cardboard is cracked, but it's one of the very first action figures that I bought when I was an adult that kind of kicked off my collection. So I had to go
Awesome.
and meet him, and I had to get a photo signed, and then I had to get him to sign my crappy action figure. And I'm like, you started this all. This action figure started it all. So
That's so
it was really
awesome.
funny, and he got a good kick out of it too.
I love see that's one of the things I loved, especially with Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and including Voyager, was they were able to take characters that started off on Next Gen and bring them through the series
Mhm.
in a really believable way because you wouldn't think Barkley would show up on Voyager, but
But there he is, and he's
there he
fantastic.
is. And that's one of the things I really love is that they can just they're in the obviously their shared universe and they can just really do incredible things and like I loved Barkley. Like his there were certain episodes where it was like the focus was on him
Mhm.
and you really got it cuz he's not the typical Star Trek lead. He's this real funny, but he's like really beaten down at times
Yeah,
and you're
he
like
had a hard rap
you're
sometimes.
he's like the
Yeah.
everyman. And just seeing him that like I hadn't even thought about him in years, but such a great
Such a
character.
great character, and just oh yeah, all his episodes are just so funny and so good, and just the situations that he ends up in, you're just like, oh, this poor guy.
For me, one of my favorites, and I consider him underrated even though he became a cast regular in Deep Space Nine, was Chief O'Brien.
Yes, absolutely.
I loved how he was just this transporter
Yep.
operator. You'd see him, okay, he showed up, he went away, and then when he got the transition to Deep Space Nine, you're like, what's the transporter guy gonna do on the space station? But his story with like he's actually someone that has a family and kids, and you get to just grow with him through like the years he was on Next Gen through Deep Space Nine.
Absolutely.
So incredible.
Yeah, and that's something that I think that Star Trek did a really good job on in all of their shows is you really get to see a really cool character development. Like no character or very few characters are the same at the end of the show as they are at the beginning of the show. There's a great clear development. Most of the characters get like their own episodes, so you can really, whether you like them or not, you get to kind of see where they're at and you get to see how they grow.
Are there any particular storylines that you just remember and you're like that was one of my favorite storylines, whether it was Next Gen or Deep Space Nine, Voyager, original series? Anything that stands out to you?
Oh, I'm trying to think. I really loved the Borg stuff in
Mm-hmm.
Next Generation, and I really loved anything to do with Q in Next Generation. I think John
Absolutely.
Delancey is just, oh my gosh, he's such an amazing actor. I've got to meet him at a con a few years ago, and I got to his table, and I was so starstruck. I just like couldn't even speak. But yeah, anything to do with Q, I found the whole Q race so fascinating when I was younger, especially, and just that whole race, I couldn't wrap my mind around it, and I just always wanted to know more, and there was never more information, and it was always this reaching to
Mm-hmm.
try and find more, like waiting for the next episode. Tell me more about them, and the Borg, because the Borg is so it's relatable in a sense that you can almost see it happening,
Mm-hmm.
and it's terrifying because it's an absolutely terrifying way to think of living your life and for a race to live their life.
Absolutely. I remember when Bluetooth earpieces had just started coming out, and I used to joke with people. I'm like, "That's Borg
Yeah.
stuff right there. Like, this is Borg technology
Yeah.
at its beginning."
Oh, totally. That's funny.
Are you into the Next Generation movies as
Oh yeah,
well?
absolutely.
Any in particular that stand out? I mean, I know the last one that they did, as far as Next Generation goes, with that is mostly the focus on Picard and Data.
Hmm.
It's been a while since I've watched
It's been
them.
a while since I've watched them all too. I definitely love First Contact.
Hmm.
Um,
That I think that's probably the best
I
one.
think so too. And yeah, no, I would probably say that's probably my favorite of the next gen movies. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've watched them actually.
You know what's really great, just going back to Next Gen, the cast, is after Next Gen finished, seeing the cast spread out so much into so many different things, whether it was like voice acting
Hmm.
or doing different roles elsewhere, like you see their names pop up everywhere
Oh
now.
yeah. No, it's great. I loved when Riker started doing those shows about like the mysteries and stuff like that back in like
Hmm.
the 90s. Oh my God, those were so funny.
I remember there was one Disney cartoon show called Gargoyles,
Yes,
and
gargoyles.
it's like half the cast of Next Generation was on it.
Yep, that was so good.
Yes, I love Gargoyles. I wish they had made more of it, but
Oh,
alas, it's Disney, and they used to stick to 3 seasons maximum, and that was
they
it.
gotta leave you wanting more.
So, are you a fan of the Abrams verse movies?
I am. I mean, if I had to pick a favorite, it wouldn't be my favorite part of
Mm-hmm.
the genre. But I
Right.
think he did a really good job of sticking true to Star Trek, but also making it big enough that it could bring in new fans. And anytime anyone tries to revitalize a fandom, especially an old fandom like Star Trek,
Mm-hmm.
I have to like it. I have to respect what they're doing because anything to breathe new
Right.
life and bring new fans in, because the younger generation are what's going to keep these fandoms going. So yes, make new content,
Absolutely.
bring them in. They start off with a J.J. Abrams movie because their parents are making them see it, and then they get interested, and then they start watching the old TV shows, and that's how new fans you know spawn. And so yeah, in the movies I liked them. The first one, I didn't really feel like it was a super Star Trekky movie. I think you could have
Mm-hmm.
called it Sexy People in Space and it would have been just an apt movie title. But I did really like it and I thought it was a lot of fun. I haven't seen the third one yet. I just haven't had time, but
Right. Same
I've
here.
heard really good things. So I'm very excited to see it.
I heard real good things too because for me, I liked the first one. I did not like the second
Oh,
one
really?
with Khan. Yeah. I think I tried to explain it in a different podcast and it just came out really terrible. It just didn't seem Star Trek
Oh,
enough
see,
to
I
me.
thought the opposite. I thought the second one felt more Star Trek because I felt that it wasn't as good a movie, but I felt that it resembled Star Trek more because it was a little corny, it was a little cheesy. It
Hmm.
had a little bit more of the interpersonal relationships with people, like the little fight they have in the ship with O'Hara and Spock, and they're fighting, and Kirk's like, now this is what you're doing now. Like little moments like
Right.
that kind of made it feel more Star Trekky to me, and I felt the stakes kind of felt more like Star Trek. Yeah, I think what technically made it a worse movie for me made it a better Star Trek movie, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
It does make
Okay.
sense. It's all good. And now, have you, before we switch over, have you seen the teaser for the new Star Trek Discovery show
No, I have not.
where they reveal the ship that they're using?
No, I haven't. I have to watch that as soon as we're done.
Yep, just check it out. It's Star Trek. What are they calling it? It's Star Trek Discovery.
Okay, I will check that out.
Is That's the name of the show, and it's just a real quick glimpse of the ship, and then after you watch it, you can go on and you can look at the little different theories that people have about where it's coming from and what storyline they're bringing it from.
Ooh, I'm excited. Okay, I'm gonna check
So I
that out for sure.
don't want to spoil you on that, but it's pretty cool, and I'm excited. I know that they should be announcing casting relatively soonish because it's supposed to be out next year
Ooh,
sometime.
I'm excited. Okay, I'm gonna check that out for sure.
So you're into Star Trek, and conversely, the other big star move or show or movie,
Yes,
Star
yes,
Wars.
I'm bi-sci. There's no need to choose between. We can love them both.
You can love them both equally. So, Star Wars, are we talking original trilogy, new recipe, double new recipe with Force Awakens,
Well, obviously
TV
obviously
shows?
the original trilogy. I loved the original trilogy. The new ones, or the prequels, you know what? I don't think I hate them as much as a lot of other people do. I think that
Mhm.
each one of them has a few good things, and I choose to be a positive person. I choose to look past the things I don't like and focus on the
Right?
things that I do. I love the Clone Wars cartoon, and I love Rebels as well. Yeah, no, the Clone Wars is one of my kind of go-to Netflix shows just for noise in the background while I'm working on costumes, and I love Rebels.
I have not yet watched Rebels, though. After hearing about who has shown up from Clone Wars,
Hmm.
I really want to now start at the first. Obviously, I'll have to start at the first season and work my way through.
Yeah,
But even the character development or the character designs that I've seen with them ending, I believe, what, the third season
yep.
now? The changes of the characters has really, it's not something that you see in a cartoon show of like major character
No,
changes.
it's not, and they do such a good job of tying, like doing a really good job of tying in all the other bits of Star Wars into it. So if you pay
Hmm.
attention, you'll find these little moments where you're just like, oh my gosh, like this, this kind of makes this part make sense, and this makes this part make sense. Some of my, Rebels has and Clone Wars has slowly become some of my favorite parts of the genre. And General Thrawn is being introduced into Rebels now, which makes
Yes.
the Timothy Zahn books canon, and I am so flippin' excited about that because I absolutely love those books, and to get that as a fan of the books is just I just nerded out so hard when I saw the picture of him.
Yes, I am so looking forward to that because for a long time, obviously before Force Awakens came out or even the prequels came out, everyone wanted the Thrawn trilogy to be
Mhm.
the next movies. And I remember getting those books as a Christmas present one year and just devouring
Oh,
them
they were
because
so
they were so
good.
good.
So good. Yeah, a friend of mine, I wanted to get into reading the Star Wars books, but there's so many and I just didn't know where to
Hmm.
start. And a friend of mine gave me the first of that trilogy, and he's like, "All you need to read is these three books. Don't worry about anything else. Just read these three." And I read them, and I'm like, "I don't need to read anything else. Like I've already read the best ones."
Yep, pretty much. I'm on the other side. Like I think I've read almost every Star Wars book that came out through the 2000s and beyond, like the new Jedi Order series that was like 30 books long.
Oh, really?
And I read that because that's where, and not spoilers because it doesn't relate to the canon
Yeah.
anymore, but like they killed Chewbacca in the first
Oh,
book.
yeah. I think yeah. I know a little bit about them.
Yeah, and they kill off one of Han and Leia's kids during the
Hmm.
series, and it just it's an incredible series. It just is a lot, and there's some books that are just filler,
Yeah.
but it's a really good book series. But now that it's not, it's in that Legends universe that they've shuffled everything off into,
Hmm.
it's kind of like, oh, okay, I guess. But yeah, Thrawn trilogy is fantastic, and I've heard that he's doing a new Thrawn book for that's going to be canon.
Oh,
I mean, I don't know if it's true or not, but that's the last time I heard
I
something.
hope it's true because his books were so great, and I would love to read more. I'd love to know more.
So you love Clone Wars. I love Clone Wars. That show, like, I remember when the Clone Wars movie came out, and I was like, "Oh, that's so stupid. It's like a cartoon Star Wars." I never watched it, but then I watched the Clone Wars TV series, and I had a friend say, "Wow, I really like Anakin Skywalker for the first time ever because of Clone
Yep,
Wars."
exactly. I agree completely. Yeah, I don't even, I think I started watching it because someone else was talking about it. I have a lot of friends who are big Star Wars fans that I've met through social media, and someone was talking about it. And it was one day it appeared on Netflix, and I'm like, okay, I'll give it a try. And
Hmm.
the first season, I'm like, oh, this is like Star Trek for little kids. It's cute. And then all of a sudden, it just took this like dark turn. I'm like, oh, never mind. This is actually really good. And it just kept getting better and better and better and better.
I know one of my friends had said something where she's like, you don't really ever think about the clone troopers until you watch that TV show
Absolutely.
and see like their life, what they go through. And there's so many episodes where it's just focused on them,
Hmm.
and you're like, those characters are so incredible, and at the same time they're the ones that are like killing all your favorite Jedi
Yeah.
at the end.
Yeah, no, it's really great to see. And I love the fact that it takes you to a place the prequels, the movies didn't. And I've
Hmm.
caught myself watching Clone Wars so many times. I'm just like this is what we wanted for prequels. Like this
Absolutely.
is what we wanted. This is the story that we all kind of hoped we would get, and they're characters that we care about so much. And it was a little bit, I finished watching it and I was like, I just want to like forget about the movies and just have this be my prequels instead.
You know what's what's funny is that there's a lot of fan mixes out there now with the movies, with particularly The Hobbit and then the prequel Star Wars. And there's a prequel cut out there. I think it's called Return to the Dark Side, and they cut out everything that's not related to like the main kind of Star Wars mythos. So they combine like they cut like everything but like 5 minutes or 10 minutes out of the first movie,
Hmm.
and then they do the same with Clone Wars, where they have like maybe another 10 or 15 minutes from that, and then Revenge of the Sith is mostly intact, and they cut those three movies down into one like 3 hour movie.
Okay.
And it's stuff like that where people are just trying to, I guess, make it better.
Hmm.
But when they had talked about the Clone Wars, when the prequels were coming out, like, oh, you're going to see the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars are so awesome. The Clone Wars cartoon show is so awesome, and that's
Yes.
what we wanted.
Yes.
In like, sure, intersperse, whoever you need to intersperse, but could you have given us 3 movies of just the Clone
Yeah,
Wars?
exactly. Exactly. I loved seeing like one of the things I love about the Clone Wars is, what you're mentioning before is that you see the troopers and you kind of hear their story and they become people. And it's so easy to forget when you're watching Star Wars that these are people. They're clones, but they're still people. Like they're not robots, they're not faceless, and it gives them these personalities and these people that you start really caring about. And when some of them die in the show, you get really upset. Like there's a couple episodes
Mm-hmm.
of they become people, and I think that's really cool. And it kind of you watch that, and then you watch Star Wars again, and it reminds you these are people. These are actual people, and they actually have stories, and it makes it. I don't know. I think for me, it makes it really cool.
What I liked with Force Awakens is that they seem to have carried that over with Finn.
Very much so.
And you're like, because if people hadn't seen Clone Wars, they would have no clue. But for those of us that saw Clone Wars, we're like, that is totally like what they went through, like with the designations and how they trained as far as a group and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, do you have a favorite movie of the Star Wars universe?
I get asked this all the time and I never know how to answer. I mean, I love the originals, all three of the originals. I really have a
Hmm.
hard time picking which one I like best. I know it's
Okay.
a cop-out answer, but it's true.
It's not. It's not. I know for me, I always subscribe to the Kevin Smith dialogue. I can't remember what movie I pull it from, but it's always Empire Strikes Back because it just ends on such a down note. Like everything's going wrong for them, but you have like that final shot of, well, maybe something good will happen next
Yeah,
movie.
and it gives you hope for something good to happen next.
Yep.
It can't get
And
any worse.
it can't get any worse. All right, now for the really hard-hitting question. Do you have a favorite character?
Again, I have a cop-out answer of I really like all the characters. I love Princess Leia. And
Okay.
I love Princess Leia because it's one of the first examples of just a really strong female character. And, as women and as girls watching, all these movies and all these geek genres, we need those strong female characters. And she was just such a perfect example of this woman who could have been, the damsel in distress and having the boys do everything.
Mm-hmm.
First thing she did was save their butts and throw them all into the garbage chute. Like so, and
Yep.
it's this great role model and this great strong character. So there's absolutely no way I couldn't love her.
Right. Not only did she save their butts, she was a member of the Galactic Senate for what it was. Did courier missions like to shuttle secrets back and forth for the Rebel
Mm-hmm.
Alliance. She's she's not excluded during their battle plans
Yep.
at all. Like she's there right there side by side throughout the 3 movies
Mm-hmm.
or into the 4th movie where she becomes a general. So like has always been presented as equal with the exception of like her time with Jabba, but
But even then, I mean,
Jabba do what Jabba do.
yeah, even then, she took a situation that, she was put in a situation that was meant to be degrading and was meant to be submissive.
Hmm.
And the first opportunity she had, she took that around and she used the exact thing that they were using to humiliate her and used that to kill Jabba. Just completely
Absolutely.
taking over her power once again. And I remember a while ago when all that controversy about the bikini came out and,
Hmm.
all these people had all these opinions about it. And I'm just like, if anything, I think this embodies feminism, more than any of her other outfits. She takes everything that they've given her to, to make her weak and uses that exact same thing to make her stronger than all of them. And I'm just like, that's girl power right there.
Are you looking forward to Rogue One as much as I
Of
am?
course. Very much so.
I do have to say, because again, reader of books, that I read the X-Wing Rogue Squadron series and was super into it because it's got a lot of my favorite characters as far as pilots go. But I'm looking forward to this different kind of version of it where it seems to be like Jyn Erso's working for the rebels and they're trying to steal the Death Star plan, like Death Star plans number 1, and just this motley crew of characters. And I love it more than the Force Awakens as far as trailers go because I love that throwback to the New Hope era of like the designs and everything's just dirty and gritty
Hmm.
and it looks so good.
Yeah, I haven't read the books, but, I love anything that expands the universe more.
Hmm.
Is something that I love because when it's something like Star Wars that all I always want more, making the universe even bigger for me, that I can get very excited about.
Absolutely. That's one of the things I love when either shows just, get the extra season or they delve into something else. When they get to do world building, it's one of my favorite things. Just to expand what you know to like this unknown thing,
Absolutely.
this unknown entity, these new characters, like the books that are now tying into the movies. It's wonderful to get stuff that just adds to already a great
Hmm.
universe. And then of course we've got I think they just finished filming the number
Yep, they
8.
just finished filming. I loved Force Awakens. I had so much fun at that movie, and I cannot wait to see what else happens.
I'm definitely excited to see what happens next now that Han is dead, Chewbacca is with
With Ray,
Rey.
yeah.
Finn is I don't know what Finn is. Finn with the new rebel people,
Yeah,
or
he's with the
did
Rebels,
Finn?
isn't he?
Okay,
I think
I
so.
don't remember
Yeah.
because I know Rey went off on her
Yeah, Ray
own.
went off with Chewbacca, or now she's with Luke.
Yet now with Luke and Chewie and
Yeah, and
Rey.
then we just
So
kind of left Finn with the Rebels.
Finn, yep, okay. I didn't remember if he like decided to run away or I can't like it's been so long since I've seen that movie
Yeah, no,
too.
he's just chilling with Poe. They're just having
Just
they're
chilling
they're
with
having their
Poe. Their
bromance. Yeah.
bromance. Yep. 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 I'm definitely interested to see where it goes. And what kills me now, it doesn't kill me. It blows me away that they're able to film this quickly and not have spoilers get out
Oh.
of what they're because they film so many other things like in that geek, the nerd geek sphere,
Hmm.
and you're always getting updates of, oh well, this happened or here's like a snippet of script. And with Force Awakens and the latest movies, You haven't really heard
Nothing.
anything.
Yeah, they do a really good job of that. And I think, I remember when The Force Awakens was leading up to its release, all the Star Wars fans were just like so against spoilers and don't spoil this for other people. I remember there were all these memes on Instagram just going around, real fans don't spoil Star Wars for other fans. And it was nice to see all these fans kind of bond together and, not want to ruin it for other people because
Right.
so often it's the opposite. Like one of my biggest beef with Game of Thrones is that the second the episode airs, people are posting spoilers and it's like
Oh my
some of us
goodness.
work. I'm trying to get home to watch it, and by the time I get
Some
home,
of us can't watch it until like the next
yeah,
day.
it's like, oh God, stop. Like
No Facebook for me for a day or two.
exactly. But it was nice with Star Wars that wasn't like that. It was the exact opposite. People were really kind of banded together to make sure that everyone had at least a few days to get to the theater and see the movie before spoilers started getting posted. So that was really
Right.
nice. And yeah, I like that kind of thing because it's everyone should be able to kind of enjoy it for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I am the person that I don't like reading about movies that I'm excited about going and seeing. So when The Force Awakens was coming out, anytime there was a news article about it, I wouldn't read it. I bought magazines with Force Awakens articles. Haven't like I didn't read them till after the movie came out just because I wanted to go
Mm-hmm.
into that movie so unspoiled and just enjoy it for the first time and,
Right.
not have any preconceived notions. And I'm glad I did because oh my gosh, I had so much fun.
I think with the way that they're doing trailers and commercials now, as far as how much they're really presenting, even if it's not correlated as far as like the storyline, but they're real like a lot of movies are now putting so much into their trailers. You at times don't need to go see the movie.
Yeah, and I hate that. And I think that Star Wars did a really nice job not putting too much into their
Mm-hmm.
trailers. And the very first one was really reminiscent of the first, like the original series Star Wars trailers in the sense that it really didn't give you much. It gave you a few images and that was it. And I was like, oh, nice throwback, guys. Way to go.
Right. So something else that you're into that you had mentioned with Star Trek was that you are a toy
I'm
collector.
a toy collector.
Now, is it just action figures? Is it more than action figures?
I collect a lot of Mint on Card action figures. That's probably like the basis of my collection. And then I collect a lot of Lego as well.
Okay, so mint on card is where the figure is still on that
Yep,
cardstock
still
back,
on the
correct?
cardstock.
Okay. Okay, I've got a few of those in a box somewhere.
I have them all over my living room.
Is there a particular series that you like look for more than others, or is it like whatever you're into or the character in particular?
Usually it's whatever I'm into. I have a lot of Star Trek. That's kind of what started getting me into toy collecting with Star Trek.
Hmm.
Now I have so much that I've kind of had to stop. So now when it comes to Star Trek collectibles, I kind of only get things that are a little bit harder to find or something that is a character or something I personally am like super excited about. But
Okay.
yeah, so I collect whatever really strikes my fancy. I
Uh,
have a lot of Batman collectibles, and then I have some totally random things. I've got Captain Planet and Biker Mice from Mars figures as well. So it kind of spans into whatever I'm into, whatever I find that I like. Those are the things I pick up.
okay. Are you a Funko Pop collector as well?
A little bit. I'm not a serious Funko Pop collector just because there's so many and they're all so cute and it's such a slippery slope. I try to limit my pops to a dull roar.
What was crazy is when they first came out, I didn't really like them because I don't like their eye shape, just like the black soulless eyes that they have.
Yeah.
And then I picked a few up, and I joined a Facebook group for like buying and selling and trading them.
Hmm.
And to see the amount of wall space that people have devoted to Funko Pops is just insane. And then the prices, like for some of them, are hundreds or even like close to $1,000 for
Oh,
some
that's
of them.
crazy.
It
Yeah.
it blows me away.
I remember a friend of mine bought me my very first pop, and this was when like pops just came out and like we're kind of like
Hmm.
just getting starting to get popular, and it was the Princess Leia. Um, with the buns and the white dress pop, and I looked at it and I was like, oh, this is like kind of cute, whatever, and like kind of like put it on my dresser, and it was a gift from a friend. And then slowly but surely, all of a sudden, this tidal wave of new pops came out, and I was like, oh, this is cute, I'll pick up this, and oh, this is cute, I'll pick
Mm-hmm.
up this. And before I knew it, I had like 30 pops, and I'm like, I don't have anywhere to put these now.
Right.
And
Like I have. Oh, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, like, there's just so many. It's so easy to, and they're, you know, they're always at your comic book store, so it's easy to pick up your comics, and then, oh, I'm gonna grab this one too, and then all of a sudden your collection has just grown to this mass proportion.
Right. Like I saw. I started with. I think it was like Princess Anna from Frozen because I love her character in
Hmm.
it, and I got Daenerys, and I got Tyrion from Game of Thrones, and I picked up Wish vs. Willow from Buffy the Vampire
Nice.
Slayer. And then I saw that they had Sailor Moon ones. I was like, well, I love the Sailor Scouts. I want to get all of those. But then I'm figuring out, I'm like, okay, that's $10 each. That's $50. I do have bills to pay and food to buy, and my kids do need to eat this week.
Yeah,
And
I know. Collecting
the
is oh, it's just all of a sudden, you know, I've only been collecting for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years, and you know, I already have an entire living room that's wall to wall toys.
what all like besides like action figures, I went to my first convention this summer. Since Star Trek conventions back in the 90s,
Mhm.
so it's been a long time.
Oh wow.
And I went to my first convention. I brought a sizable amount of money with me. I didn't spend any of it because, on one hand, I was like, there's so many cool things. I want them, but then I don't have anywhere to put them, whether it's artwork or like little action figures. Or what am I going to do with like a House Stark banner? Where am I going to put that in my house? I don't know. So I came back with all my money because
Oh,
I didn't spend any of it. I was like, there's so much cool stuff, but at the same time, I don't have room for it right now.
you have a lot more self-control than I do. I have a friend that just went to San Diego Comic-Con. Sadly, I didn't get to go, but he was nice enough to bring me back some exclusives from it, and
Hmm.
I got the katana from DC Superhero Girls because I love that. And the box is humongous, and because I save all my boxes, it's just sitting on my floor next to my toy shelf. I don't know where I'm gonna put it.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Some of those boxes are
they're
huge
but
though.
they're so pretty, and
Yeah,
because I keep all my boxes and I keep everything in the box. I'm just like, I can't open you, like, just can't do it.
right. Especially because it's like a San Diego Comic Con exclusive.
Exactly. It's like you need that. That's part of the magic.
Do you ever sell your collection, or would
I
you would you consider that only in like dire
I
circumstances?
haven't. A lot of it due to the fact that I'm lazy, and and because I live in Canada, shipping internationally is a lot more expensive and a lot more difficult.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so like if I lived in the States, you know, I'd probably be a lot more inclined to do trading and selling and that kind of stuff. But you know, just the time. Honestly, I don't have the time a lot of the time to get my stuff ready to ship, because I'm so anal about my toys and making sure they stay in good condition. I would just be that paranoid freak that would ship one action figure in like 18 layers of bubble wrap, and it'd be this
Right.
humongous box because I'd be so scared of it not getting to where it needs to go. But no, I mean, I've done some trading locally with a few local Lego collectors and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
that's really as far as it goes for me. You know, my collection is, it's very personal to what I like. I think that there would definitely be some people who would be interested in some of my stuff, but you know, the things that I buy and either things that I bought because I personally want them in my collection. I don't tend to buy things with the idea of reselling down the
Hmm.
road, or they're gifts from people, and therefore, you know, I wouldn't get rid of them because they're a gift from someone, and that also has that sentimental value of, you know, being attached to another person.
Right. Absolutely. So a question I always ask my guests is, besides the two fandoms we've talked about, Star Trek and Star Wars, and we delved into a little bit on the side stuff, are there anything that you would want to recommend to people to check out? Anything, maybe a smaller fandom that you think maybe people would be interested in, or an older fandom, something that's coming out that is really catching your attention?
Um, Well, lately, my kind of thing that I've been really enjoying doing the last year or more is finding comic books to read that aren't quite as popular, that, aren't like the DC and Marvels. Like I like to kind of find things that are a little bit lesser known. Because, my collections and, I live in Vancouver, so I obviously live in a very small apartment. Um, I'm running out of space for all the things that I love, so I've started picking up comic books a lot more than picking up toys and collectibles. So yeah, I love discovering new comics. Right now, some of my favorites are The Beauty by Jeremy Hahn and Bitch Planet by Kelly Sue DeConnick and Sex Criminals by Matt Fraction. Those are probably some of my favorites as of right now. And then recently, a friend of mine just lent me Outcast, which I can't remember who does it, but that was really good too. And I love stuff like that. And I love finding other people who are reading these comics that not a lot of people seem to know about and picking those up.
Okay. Definitely some good recommendations. I know I've heard about Bitch Planet before from a few other people,
So good.
and they've said it's real good. I'm not familiar with it, but I've heard that it's good because I've been out of comics. Oh, I mean, I still try and read them occasionally if I can find them, but I don't buy them anymore. It's been probably at least 10 years since I collected anything.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, for comics, if you're especially I do buy a lot of floppies. I try really hard to limit the amount of floppies that I buy, somewhat unsuccessfully. So I love picking up trades. They take up a
Mm-hmm.
lot less space. They're a lot easier to kind of maintain as opposed to boxes and boxes of floppies. So that's definitely a good way if people are looking to get into comics, but they're intimidated by the idea of picking up all these individual issues. Go for the trades. They're so much easier, and then it's like reading an actual book too.
Right. Absolutely. As I mentioned when I introduced you, I found you on the wonderful platform of
Yay,
Instagram
Instagram.
through the power of people dressing up as characters as what everyone knows now is called cosplay.
Yeah.
And you are a prolific
Oh,
cosplayer
thank you.
and have some wonderful characters. I especially love Cobra Commander.
Oh, thank you.
How did you get into cosplay?
I got into cosplay a few years ago. It's something that I always wanted to get into, but I didn't know how, and I didn't really know anyone that did it. And so I'd always just kind of, watch from the sidelines. And this was, I would say this is kind of when cosplay was just starting to like really get a good, strong foothold in
Mm-hmm.
in the in the community. And I was gonna go to a local con, and all my friends bailed on me that I was going to go with. And so I put a thing up on Facebook. I'm like, hey, who's going to Fan Expo? Like, anyone going? And a friend of mine who on Instagram goes by Katie DeCobre, we were friends years ago. We used to work together and we kind of fell out of touch as, adults sometimes do. She messages me and she's like, hey, yeah, we're going. Like, you should come with us. I'm like, okay, great. So we start, reconnecting and chatting for a little bit. And she does Baroness from Cobra. And she's like, hey, do
Okay.
you want to cosplay as a Fem Trooper with us? And I'm like, yes. So her and her boyfriend put together my costume for me and helped me get everything I needed. And I cosplayed as a Fem Trooper with them. And it was amazing. It just blew me away how much fun I had. And, you get the attention from the fans and you look amazing. And we're doing photos and we're walking around. And it was also one of the first times that I'd gone to a con and really like immersed myself like in the con like for the full weekend and everything. And oh my god, I just had such a blast. And then we also did the Gotham Sirens the next day as well, which I guess would technically be my second cosplay. And it was just that was it for me. That was the end. That was the beginning of the end.
What costumes are you most known for now? Is there any in particular where people recognize you immediately from a certain costume?
Cobra for sure. We
Okay.
get recognized as Cobra quite a lot. And then second would be Poison Ivy, or at least I really hope people recognize me as Poison Ivy because I like to think that I am her.
Are you a cosplayer who does all their own costumes as far as like making the costume, doing all the design work, painting, sewing? Do you buy your costumes?
I do
How does it work for
I do
you?
a mix. I definitely make a lot of my stuff. I do buy and modify a lot of my stuff.
Hmm.
I don't sew. So what I'll often do instead is find something similar to what I need, and then I'll modify it and hand sew it and paint it and do whatever I need to kind of get it to what it's supposed to be. I have a couple of my costumes have been commissioned. Yeah, so kind of a mix of everything. I'm not opposed to people buying their costumes if it's, something that they don't feel their skill set is at, or they don't have the time or whatever.
Hmm.
I mean, really, do what works best for you. I like making my own stuff, but I definitely don't have the time or the skill set to do everything I want to do. So yeah, Amazon, find that cat suit you need, modify it how you need it. You go, girl. Like, you look great.
And I'm looking at your Instagram right now. I'm seeing an incredible Ghostbusters picture.
Ah, I posted that today.
So that's something that is, as far as the picture goes, it looks amazing.
Yeah, that was done by the very talented Cospix. He's also on Instagram. He's a photographer that we met in Seattle. He's done a whole bunch of our pictures actually. And yeah, no, he does such a great job, and I absolutely love that picture. The more I look at it, the more funny I find it.
What do you love most about cosplaying?
For me, I love I've got to do and meet so many great people and do so many amazing things. I've got to travel. It was through cosplay and and through Instagram that I met some friends in California. I went down there for Star Wars Celebration. Some of my favorite people are down there. I've found so much more confidence in myself, and in my abilities. I've been able to take cosplay and turn it into more. I loosely use the term modeling, but getting to do more creative things with other creative people.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's opened up so many interesting doors that, a few years ago before I started, I never would have saw myself doing some of the stuff that I get to do now. And it's all thanks to a friend of mine on Facebook messaging me asking me if I wanted to cosplay with them.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people, I know I'm one of them. There are those of us, we're like, oh, we'd love to cosplay, but we'd love to do it, but, and it's always that but, and it's like it always stops us. And I know at some point the butt's just got to go away.
Well, it's intimidating. It's intimidating to start. I know, like, when I wanted to, and before I started, I felt like I needed an in. I felt like I needed
Hmm.
someone to take me under their wing and kind of bring me into that world. And in a way, I'm glad that I did, because I when I went to my first con in cosplay, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and I got there and it was just this totally overwhelming in the best way experience. But I get it. I mean, and there's so many cosplayers out there, and there's so many girls and guys who are so good at what they do, and they're so pretty and so handsome, and you're just like, oh my god, I can never be on that level. And I feel like that all the time. I see other girls cosplay and I'm just like, I will never be as good as this girl. But you can't let that hold you back. Like, you need to find those characters and those fandoms that you really like enough to kind of take that risk. And once you do your first one, the rest are easy. It's you do your first
Hmm.
one and all of a sudden you want to do bigger and better and more, and you get all these ideas going, and before you know it, you're 10 costumes deep and wondering why you didn't start sooner.
There you go. Might as well take the plunge now, everyone.
Exactly, get into it. It's so much fun and you'll be so glad that you did.
And I've heard from a few people, because I always ask a lot of my guests this, is that their advice is always stick with something simple as your first one. One person recommended, if you're into Harry Potter, just get yourself a Harry Potter like school outfit
Yeah,
and stick your toes in that
yeah.
way.
My first cosplay was my Fem Trooper, and that was all purchased and modified. And it's to this day one of still my most popular and most favorite cosplays to do.
Well, I have had a blast talking with you, Jay. It has been a great pleasure. I remember when I first sent the email to you, I was like, I hope she responds. But as I told you with before the show started, it's hit or miss depending on if people are checking their emails, or, as we had talked about off the record,
Mhm.
uh, the certain emails that people do send you are not the nicest
Yeah, I
ones.
get a lot of things that, I don't often check my DMs because I just don't want to have to deal with some of the stuff that I see. But then, I also
Hmm.
find great photographers and great people like you like that too. So it's kind of, I don't check it as often as I probably should. But yeah, that's the fun part about being a girl on Instagram.
Right. Right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on and spending the time with me
Yes,
today.
thank you so much. I had a lot of fun.
Well, thank you so much. And to everyone else out there listening, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.